I don't want a woman with a belly like a monster. You'll have to raise the kid by yourself." While looking at my swollen belly, 9 months pregnant, Nathan spitefully said. His eyes were sneering, a vulgar smile stretching across his lips. I had always expected this day would come. Despite expecting such an incident, I swiftly went to my room, came back, and presented him with a document. "Fine. Here's the divorce papers." I thrust the prepared divorce papers before Nathan, who distorted his face and said, "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden?" "Well, it was your idea. Now sign it quickly. I'll submit it tomorrow." His face rapidly turned red at my provocative words. "Watch closely. I'll make you regret how you've treated and looked down on me all this time. My name is Hillary Johnson. I'm a 28-year-old housewife. Until 2 years ago, I was working for a mobile company. I met Nathan Johnson, my boss at the workplace, when I was 26. It didn't take us long to fall in love and get married after that. Nathan, 6 years older than me, was very dependable, especially when teaching me the ropes at work. Being new to the department and not knowing my way around, I couldn't express how grateful I was for Nathan's precise instructions. As he taught me about work, we became friends and went out to dinner together. When he asked me out, I was over the moon, especially because I had never dated anyone before. It's embarrassing and not something I share often, but being a cartoon enthusiast, I was always more interested in the 2D characters than real-world men. However, seeing high school and college classmates getting married one after another, I started to feel the pressure. When I fell in love with Nathan, I secretly vowed it would be my first and last love. So, when I began dating Nathan and we got married a year later, I was completely elated. Nathan was good-looking and popular among the female coworkers. I was proud to be his wife. At the workplace, many congratulated us, saying, "Congratulations, or though I'm jealous, I wish you happiness." I was basking in unprecedented happiness. I would have never imagined what was in store for us. "Since you're married to me, you'll quit your job, right?" I informed them yesterday. "What?" The day after we submitted our marriage registration. Just as I was eagerly starting our new married life, Nathan said that. Obviously, I've always wanted my wife to focus solely on household matters. Don't worry. I can support both of us with my income. But this is so sudden. You never told you that before. I never heard from Nathan about quitting my job before our marriage. I began working at my current job due to a recommendation from my father. It wouldn't be right to leave without notice. I wanted to explain this, but Nathan's eyes exerted a silent pressure that told me not to pursue the topic further. I instinctively shut my mouth and couldn't resist anymore. "I admit I should have told you. But it's done. Starting tomorrow, you don't need to go to work. I'll handle the handover. Starting tomorrow." What a surprise! The news about it starting tomorrow was so sudden that I felt dizzy. However, Nathan's words were serious. I couldn't oppose Nathan, who had been my superior at work. Even though I had to leave my job without a proper farewell, I was determined to make our marriage work. Since Nathan married me and entrusted me with household responsibilities, I wanted to meet his expectations. I didn't want to be considered an incompetent wife. With utmost dedication, I worked hard at the household chores. I prepared meals focusing on Nathan's favorites, setting as many dishes as possible on the table. Although Nathan ate everything without specifically saying it was delicious or bad, I honestly wished he would offer a word of appreciation. Maybe I was hungry for that kind of recognition after quitting my job and no longer being recognized by anyone. I have an important meeting tomorrow. My jacket's clean, right? Yes, of course. Nathan seemed to hold some old-fashioned views, showing the domineering side. I kept reminding myself how fortunate I was to have married him, and took the initiative to meet his expectations. Without any personal income, I had no way of living normally other than with Nathan. Our relationship felt more like that of an employer and a housemaid than a husband and wife. But our marital life was smooth. One day, I fell ill and couldn't get out of bed. Feeling lethargic and thinking, I'll catch up on the housework tomorrow. Nathan entered the bedroom. Hey, what are you doing? Get up. Make some food. He got angry and kicked the blanket I was in. I'm sorry. I'm feeling unwell today. Can you manage something for yourself? Even after I explained, instead of nodding in understanding, Nathan frowned and said, "What? You don't work, yet you're lying down just because you feel a bit sick? Pathetic. Get up." He kicked me again, and I got up from the bed in disbelief. It was unthinkable that he would demand housework from his sick wife. I never imagined he would be like this before we married. Perhaps it was my fault for not seeing it, but it was too much. I did my chores while crying. Several days passed, and my health did not improve. Then I realized I had missed my period and rushed to the drugstore to buy a pregnancy test. Upon trying it, it showed a positive result. I was overjoyed and tears flowed naturally. I decided to tell Nathan when he returned from work. My spirits lifted instantly. What? You're pregnant? That day, Nathan returned home after midnight. The moment he entered, the smell of alcohol made me nauseous. His face was flushed, and he staggered as he walked. It was surprising how much he had drunk, especially without notifying me in advance. So I had prepared dinner. But more than that, I wanted to quickly tell Nathan about the pregnancy, and shared the news with my drunk husband. Yes. I haven't been to the doctor yet, so it's not confirmed. I spoke with deep emotion, wanting to convey the happiness as soon as possible. But I saw Nathan's face darken. A child. What have you done? Perhaps due to the alcohol, Nathan spoke with an uncharacteristically grim tone. Huh? I don't want a child. Damn, this is the worst. If you're going to have it, raise it yourself. With those harsh words, Nathan rudely stripped off his clothes and headed to the bathroom. It was unbelievable. I can't believe he would make irresponsible comments about the baby instead of being happy for us. The happiness I felt was immediately replaced with deep sorrow. Why would he say such things? He doesn't want a child? He had never mentioned such feelings before. We hadn't even been using contraception, so I naturally thought we both wanted children. Even if he didn't want children, to tell his pregnant wife that it's the worst was beyond comprehension. As I was hanging Nathan's jacket and about to take his shirt to the washroom, I noticed something. What's this? A piece of paper emerged from the pocket of the dress shirt. Immediately, I could tell it was a receipt by its texture. I thought it was just a receipt from tonight's gathering and was about to discard it. But then my eyes caught the name of the establishment. Is this a motel? My hand holding the receipt trembled. Just by the name, I could tell it was a motel. Why? Doesn't Nathan love me? Isn't marriage supposed to be between two people who love each other? Especially since we've only been married for just over a year, how could this be? Having been lost in imaginary romances for years and never truly engaging in a real relationship, I couldn't immediately accept this reality. However, if Nathan was cheating, many things would make sense. Has Nathan been using me from the very start of our marriage? Was he truly in love with the one he was cheating with, and I was just a convenient servant? Is that why he acted that way when he heard I was pregnant? When I started to doubt Nathan, I couldn't stop, and nausea started to set in. Yes, it must be. There's no doubt. Maybe the reason he drove me out of the company was that his mistress worked there. Thinking that, everything started to make sense. He simply wanted stability by marrying me. I couldn't differentiate between what was real and what I was imagining. But the heartless words he hurled at me after finding out I was pregnant were undeniably infuriating. That day, I decided to gather evidence of Nathan's infidelity. From that point on, Nathan's cold behavior towards me became very apparent. Perhaps he couldn't forgive the fact that I was pregnant. Even knowing that I was suffering from morning sickness, he would purposely eat smelly foods near me or nitpick my housework, making me redo tasks. My pregnant body had a lot to endure, and my heart was heavy with dung whenever Nathan harassed me. While enduring Nathan's harassment, I investigated his affair. Nathan never parted from his cellular phone, even taking it to the bathroom, making it impossible to sneak a peek. During the day, when I secretly entered Nathan's room, I found nothing incriminating in his tidy room. He was meticulous even at work, with his desk always in order. Realizing it'd be hard to get a slip-up from him directly, I frequently checked Nathan's pockets for possible evidence like receipts. However, my investigation was proving to be difficult. Should I give up and hire a detective? But I don't have that kind of money. While I was pondering this, I received a phone call. Hello? It's me, your dad. How are you? The caller was my father. He rarely called me, so I wondered what was up. Dad, what's the matter? Aren't you busy with work? Well, my employees have been doing well, so I'm not that busy. My father is the CEO of a company in Canada. He's always been busy since I can remember, and I don't have many memories of playing with him. However, I respected him for his passion for work. So why would he call me out of the blue? So, what's going on? As I inquired, my father began to reveal a shocking truth. Is that really true? Yes. He's not the type to lie. I want you to believe me. After hearing my father's words, I was in shock and couldn't respond. However, I began to understand the cause of my distress and felt somewhat relieved. Thank you, Dad. I'll do my best. After expressing my gratitude to my father for the valuable information, I hung up the phone. The harvest of my research rose unexpectedly. While I was inwardly pumping my fist in excitement, I couldn't help but get upset by what I had learned. Tensions between Nathan and me only seemed to increase. Nathan continued to be cold to me, even though I was pregnant. Every time he acted that way, I felt a profound hatred towards him. Months of this went on. Finally, an event occurred that broke our life apart. Being 9 months pregnant, I was always cautious around Nathan, living as if holding my breath. I tried to stay out of Nathan's sight, leading a quiet life. Such a stifling life wore me down. One day, I served the dinner I made as usual when Nathan returned and we sat at the dining table. I was quietly eating when Nathan suddenly slammed his fork down. What is this? It's tasteless. With that, he threw the food I made onto the floor. Huh? Why are you doing this? I was taken aback, trying to comprehend the situation. The anger at having the meal I prepared dumped before me gradually welled up inside me. I've been thinking this for a while now, but recently your meals are tasteless. How can you make something so awful? Nathan spat out his complaints. It's true, since becoming pregnant, I've been preparing meals with minimal seasoning. But that's healthier for everyone, and it's only until the baby is born. If he found it that bad, he could have just added salt himself. Why did he have to throw the food? I was about to complain to him when Nathan snickered and said, "Humph. I don't want a woman with a belly like a monster. You'll have to raise the kid by yourself." While looking at my swollen belly, 9 months pregnant, Nathan spitefully said. His eyes were sneering, a vulgar smile stretching across his lips. I had always expected this day would come. Despite expecting such an incident, I swiftly went to my room, came back, and presented him with a document. Fine. Here's the divorce papers. I thrust the prepared divorce papers before Nathan, who distorted his face and said, "What the hell? What's this all of a sudden?" "Well, it was your idea. Now sign it quickly. I'll submit it tomorrow." In truth, since suspecting Nathan's infidelity, I had considered divorcing him. But with a child on the way, I was unsure if I could sustain myself if I took the plunge. Now, however, things were different. Being controlled by Nathan was becoming more intolerable than any other fear. And then I thought of someone. I had a backup plan that assured me I would be fine even after the divorce. Provoked by my words, I could see Nathan's face turning red with anger. "Just watch. I will make you regret every moment you looked down upon me and controlled me. You think you can survive without me? You have a baby to care for. You'll regret it. I'll be fine. Don't worry about me." Perhaps irritated by my firm resolve, Nathan snatched the divorce papers and began to fill in the blanks. "Here you go. If this is what you wanted, it's yours. Thank you." Probably, Nathan didn't think I would actually submit the divorce papers. He handed them over without a fuss. The next day, I promptly submitted the divorce papers and left the house. He would be surprised when he returned from work to find out. After that, I moved to my parents' home. It was primarily due to my father's return to the U.S. from Canada and his proposal to stay with them. It came at the right time when I was fed up with my life with Nathan, and I deeply thanked my father. I received several calls from Nathan Johnson the day I left our home, but I ignored all of them. Eventually, he stopped calling. In the end, I probably meant that little to Nathan. He's probably happy with his mistress by now. I'm guessing he might even remarry soon. I've decided to move on from Nathan, and 6 months have passed. I had a baby who was born safely, and now I live happily with my parents and the baby. It was when I was enjoying this peaceful life with my family that Nathan called again. I ignored it at first, but after repeated persistent calls, I had no choice but to answer. "Hello. What do you want now?" "Hey, what's going on?" Startled by the yelling from the phone, I quickly pulled it away from my ear. With the baby sleeping nearby, I moved to an empty room. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" "The TV. Why were you on that show? And since when were you the daughter of a CEO with assets worth millions of dollars?" I never knew that. Apparently, Nathan had seen a TV show that was broadcasted yesterday. After returning to my family home, I received a request from a TV station. My father's company, S Technology, is a renowned global tech company. The show featured the lavish life of the family of the CEO, who had returned to the U.S. Producers came to my house and filmed the lifestyle of my father, who built a globally renowned company. During the interview, they talked about our wealth, mentioning a rough estimate of several $1 million. I never imagined Nathan would see that show, but the power of television is truly something. "Oh, I didn't tell you. I have an asset of $29 million due to an advance inheritance. That's why I was able to divorce you. Yes, I had been informed of the inheritance by my father. That's why I had the confidence to live even after divorcing Nathan. What? That's dirty. Why didn't you tell me about this before? Half of it is mine, right? Give me the money now. Just as I suspected. After seeing the show, all he could think of was extorting money from me. No. Gifts from parents are not included in the property distribution. And are you forgetting your own misdeeds? What are you talking about? I'm exasperated with Nathan's rage over the phone. He called me himself. He should know he'd get blamed for what he did. You cheated, didn't you? With your new wife. And she's a junior from your company, isn't she? You started dating her even before our marriage. How do you know that? Nathan was evidently shocked. With the information I got from my father, I finally had the upper hand. Did you think I wouldn't find out? My father told me. He has many acquaintances in your company. One of them informed me about your affair. I've never mentioned it, but I'll be demanding child support. Stop kidding. Why should I pay child support? It's all because of you, right? You got pregnant on your own and slacked off with household chores. It's all your fault. Hearing Nathan blame me on the other end, my headache get worse. Blaming me without apologizing for his own mistakes is beyond belief. I can't believe I was married to someone so lacking in common sense. I truly feel it was right to leave him. Please, Hillary. I'm broke. My wife spent all the money I earned, and now I'm drowned in debt. Hearing Nathan's pitiful plea, I went from anger to sheer disbelief. I never want to deal with such an unreasonable person ever again. With that thought in mind, I firmly gripped my phone. What are you talking about? Do you even realize how ridiculous you sound? I never want to deal with you ever again. I'll have my lawyer handle the matter of child support. Never call me again. And you will not see the child anymore. Goodbye. Hey, wait. After pouring out my emotions, I quickly hung up the phone. Afterwards, I blocked Nathan's number and took a deep breath. Sigh. It's over now, right? I won't get any more calls from Nathan. I no longer want him disrupting my peaceful life. Just then I heard my baby crying from the other room, and I rushed to the room to soothe the baby. He began paying child support every month. According to a former colleague, as Nathan said, the woman he remarried seemed to be a spendthrift, and he had to pay his current living expenses with debts. It seems that because of these circumstances, Nathan tried to get a share of my inheritance by calling me. But Nathan, who didn't get a penny from me, now has expenses greater than his income. He's struggling either because he felt things were going south, or he couldn't stand being looked down upon by his colleagues. And apparently, he's trying to find a job at another company. However, rumors spread that Nathan had an affair with a junior colleague at the company, making it difficult for him to find a new job. What's more, he stupidly began his job search only after leaving his current company. And as a result, he's been forced into a life of poverty. Hearing this from a colleague didn't move me in the slightest. I thought he deserved all the hardships. The harsh words and cold demeanor he showed me will never fade from my memory. I sincerely hope he gets what he deserves. On the other hand, I am enjoying parenting with my parents. I think I'll lead a comfortable life without financial worries. But since my father mentioned passing on the company to me, I'm all geared up to work. After all, I am my hard-working father's daughter. I want my baby to think of me as an admirable mother. With that in mind, I peacefully gazed at the sleeping face of my baby. Grandma, Mom isn't moving. Help! Late at night. I was abruptly awoken by a call from my granddaughter. When I asked my sobbing granddaughter, "Where's your dad?" I received a shocking response. He kicked Mom's belly and left. In a panic, I rushed to their house to find my daughter unconscious on the floor. Later at the hospital, I learned something unimaginable from my granddaughter. How could he do this? I'll never forgive that man. At that moment, I decided to seek revenge on my son-in-law. My name is Amelia. I'm 65 years old and recently retired from a company where I had worked for a long time. My husband passed away a few years ago, and I've been living alone since. I have a daughter. Her name is Emily. Emily works at a bank and married a public servant named George 7 years ago. They had a child, Sophia, who is now 5 years old. My son-in-law George was gentle and polite, so I felt at ease leaving Emily with him. Emily, who lives about 30 minutes away by car, often brings Sophia to visit, and I cherished the moments with my adorable granddaughter. One day, as usual, my daughter and granddaughter came over. Emily and I were sipping tea, watching Sophia play with a smile. Speaking of which, it seems George got transferred recently. Yes, he moved to the Child Future Division of the Health and Welfare Center last month. Oh, is that the division that supports child rearing? Something like that. He's been very busy, often coming home late at night. I used to think that government workers always got off work on time, but it seems times have changed. I thought George, being so kind-hearted, might be well suited for a job in welfare and child-rearing support. It sounds like he has a lot of overtime. It must be tough. You have a demanding job too, Emily, but be sure to support George. If you ever need help, like with picking Sophia up from daycare, let me know. Thank you. And with that, she left, holding Sophia's hand. After that conversation, Emily stopped visiting for a while, occasionally messaging with responses like, "I've been busy lately, sorry I can't visit you." I didn't want to intrude too much on their lives, and I felt it wasn't my place to tell Emily to come home. More than anything, I hoped that they were living peacefully and happily. One day, while I was out shopping, I saw George. He was in a suit, driving an official car, and next to him was a young woman. I had heard from Emily that he sometimes had work-related outings, so he was probably on duty. I didn't think much of it at the time and wished him well in my heart. About a month later, on a Sunday, I had an errand at Emily's house and thought I'd stop by. However, despite waiting, I received no response from her. I felt concerned and didn't want to just head home without checking, so I decided to visit Emily's house. I thought if she wasn't home, that's fine, and if she had something else to do, I would just leave. However, when I rang the doorbell, I immediately heard her daughter's voice. "Mom, what's wrong?" Emily, sounding surprised, seemed unaware that I had tried to contact her. I told her over the intercom that since I was nearby, I wanted to see her, but Emily seemed hesitant for some reason. Just then, I heard George's voice. "Mom, please wait a moment, it is a bit messy in the room." "Oh, George, I'm sorry for coming unannounced." "It's okay. Please meet Sophia too." After waiting for a while, the front door opened. To my surprise, Emily looked significantly thinner than when I had seen her 3 months ago. "Emily, what happened? You seem to have lost so much weight." My daughter replied with a forced smile. "I've been dieting." Sensing something was off, George kindly offered me slippers. "Thank you, George." As I entered the living room, Sophia excitedly greeted me. "Grandma, I'm so happy to see you." My beloved granddaughter's joy made me smile, and she tugged on my hand, inviting me to play. While playing with her, I chatted with my daughter and George about casual topics. Suddenly, Sophia spilled the coffee I had been given. Though the coffee was lukewarm, I checked to ensure she wasn't burned. And to my horror, I discovered a painful-looking bruise on her arm. Emily, what happened to Sophia's bruise? Startled, I looked at Emily, who seemed frozen, unable to respond. Seems to have fallen while playing. It's nothing serious. It doesn't hurt anymore. I trusted their words and felt relieved. Emily took Sophia to change her wet clothes, but they took a long time to return. George went to check on them, and after a while, all three returned to the living room. Mom, we have plans to go out soon. Oh, I wasn't aware. I'm sorry for intruding. As I was leaving, the family saw me to the door. I patted Sophia's head, thanked George, and waved goodbye. Emily's expression seemed clouded, which bothered me, but I pretended not to notice and went home. Weeks later, in the middle of the night, my phone rang. The call was from Emily's mobile. Groggily answering, I was met with Sophia's tearful voice. Grandma, Mom isn't moving. Help! What? Sophia, what happened? Where's your dad? He kicked Mom's belly and left. Panicking at the situation, I told her to unlock the front door and rushed to their house. Upon arrival, I found Emily collapsed in the living room. She was unconscious, and Sophia was sobbing beside her. However, there was no sign of George anywhere. With trembling hands, I took out my phone and called an ambulance. Soon the ambulance arrived, and I accompanied Sophia inside. Inside the ambulance, the atmosphere was tense. My anxiety grew, and I could feel my heart racing. Arriving at the hospital, while praying for my daughter's safety, I comforted Sophia by rubbing her back. Sophia, calm down. Can you tell me what happened to your mom and dad? Sophia began to speak, occasionally sobbing as she tried her best to explain. Well, when I woke up, Mom and Dad were fighting. Dad was yelling something at Mom. Then, what happened? I went to Mom and begged Dad not to hurt her. But then Dad got angry with me, just like he always does, and Mom shielded me. I was taken aback by this shocking revelation. Does it mean that Emily and Sophia were often mistreated by George? When I asked, Sophia nodded affirmatively. According to her, after shielding Sophia, Emily was pushed by George and then brutally kicked while she was down. George left immediately, and Sophia, seeing that Emily was motionless, panicked and sent an SOS to me. But Dad told me, if you ever tell anyone about me hitting you, you'll never see your mom again. I told you, so does that mean I won't see Mom anymore? Realizing the pain and hardship Sophia had been enduring, I held her close, tears forming in my eyes. Sophia, you've been so brave. It's all right now. Who would have thought that George, who always seemed so gentle, had such a side? It was hard to believe. But considering the injuries on Sophia and Emily's recent behavior, it made sense that George had been physically abusing them regularly. While I was deep in thought, the doctor who was treating Emily came over and began explaining her condition. The doctor said she had internal bleeding, and there was a possibility of ruptured organs, so she would be undergoing surgery. She's in a critical condition. Please be prepared for the worst. I repeatedly tried to call George to inform him, but I couldn't get through. Signing the surgical consent form, I anxiously awaited the end of the emergency operation. Outside the operating room, I was trembling with fear and anger, clenching my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. I will never forgive that man for hurting my daughter and even my granddaughter. I'm determined to make him pay. At that moment, I noticed Emily's phone tightly gripped in Sophia's hand, who had fallen asleep leaning on me. Picking up the phone, I discovered something shocking and immediately took action. Later, Emily's surgery was successful, but due to the anesthesia, she remained unconscious, and her situation remained critical. I entrusted Sophia to a trusted friend and stayed by my daughter's side. Around noon, George casually appeared in the hospital room. "Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't notice the calls. I was working." "What?" "Work. More importantly, what did you do to Emily?" I glared at him and shouted, making him shift his eyes uncomfortably. "What are you talking about? Emily fell on her own." "I was working, so I don't know the details." When I told him I had heard everything from Sophia, George sneered. "You're taking a child's word for it. Please don't blame me falsely." "Still trying to play innocent, huh?" In anger, I gritted my teeth and murmured, "You're lying about working, aren't you? You went to see the woman you're having an affair with, right?" I pressed him further, and George frowned in annoyance. "What are you saying? I worked late for my family, and you dare accuse me like this?" I shoved Emily's phone screen in his face while he was making excuses. "Are you still trying to deny it after seeing this?" The screen showed evidence of George's affair. Him kissing a young woman in an official car, entering a hotel. The woman was someone I had seen in town that day. "What is this?" "That's not all. Emily's diary is also on this phone." "What?" "After you were transferred, your attitude towards Emily and the others changed. She suspected something and had a detective agency investigate. Jesh never said anything about. It was written that 2 months ago, when Emily confronted George about a possible affair, he suddenly became violent towards her. He had frequently abused her since, even injuring Sophia. Knowing she had been threatened by George to keep quiet and didn't want to worry me, Emily hadn't been able to confide in me. She had even taken out a loan to hire a detective agency to gather evidence of the affair, having had her savings book taken away by George. The most recent diary entry read, "I've finally gathered all the evidence. I'll bring up the divorce today." During their discussion, George must have kicked Emily in the stomach. As I said this, he began to sweat profusely. "No, this is a misunderstanding." Unable to bear his excuses any longer, I shouted at him in anger. "What do you mean, misunderstanding? Having an affair at work and injuring your wife and child. What were you thinking?" George shifted his eyes again, gesturing for calm, saying, "Come on, let's calm down. Let's settle this quietly for both our sakes. If this gets out, I'll lose my job. And who knows what will happen to Sophia. You understand, right? Isn't it already late?" "Who?" "I've reported everything to your workplace, with evidence, including your affair and how you injured Emily and Sophia." Their daughter had not only recorded evidence of the affair, but also an audio of the time George became violent. I compiled it all in an email and sent it to his workplace. "Do you understand the consequences of doing such a thing? Everyone will be unhappy." I stared coldly at the flustered George. Isn't the child future section of the Health and Welfare Center meant to help mothers and children in distress? What's wrong with consulting them about actual events?" George was at a loss for words. Suddenly, his phone rang. As George answered, he looked pale and flustered, muttering something. When he hung up, he looked furious. I was confronted by my boss. "What have you done, old woman?" George, with a demonic expression, approached me menacingly. I pushed him away. "I've also got a medical certificate for Emily's severe injury this time. Prepare yourself. I'm reporting this to the police. Well, the police. Old woman, enough is. George glared at me with bloodshot eyes, but at that moment, Emily woke up and spoke in a hoarse voice. George, let's get a divorce. I will raise Sophia. The next moment, hospital staff, alerted by the commotion, rushed into the room. I explained everything, and they called the police. George, who tried to attack me, was restrained by the hospital staff. He was yelling as he was taken away by the police. The rest of the story. Emily recovered and successfully divorced George. Emily claimed damages from her ex-husband and his mistress. George, facing charges of assault against Emily and Sophia, was detained by the police. Adding to my accusations, George, already known for poor work ethics, was suspended due to the incident. He's still on trial, but if convicted, he may be dismissed. It seems he's been abandoned by his family and friends for his malicious deeds. George's mistress took a leave from work due to the affair becoming known at their workplace and eventually resigned. After some time, Emily, who won the property division, repaid her debts and returned to our family home with Sophia. Living with my gradually smiling daughter and innocent granddaughter is noisy yet joyful. I look forward to enjoying Sophia's growth and hope for a peaceful life ahead. On my husband's birthday, I headed to the cake shop while my heart fluttered. I knew he'd be delighted if we held a birthday party for him. However, what I saw at the cake shop was my husband selecting a cake happily with an unfamiliar woman. I couldn't stay there any longer, so I called my husband's cell phone. Where are you right now? I'm out for a walk with our daughter. He didn't even realize I was right behind him. So I decided to give him a last birthday present along with a recommended cake. I am Emily Johnson, a part-time employee and a housewife, and I'm 32 years old. I have been married to Tom, who is 4 years older, for 8 years, and we live with our almost 4-year-old daughter, Catherine. Tom and I met when I was a high school sophomore at our part-time job. He was in college and seemed more mature than me, a high school student, and he was a senior, who I looked up to. I remember being truly happy when he, whom I had a crush on, accepted my proposal. We got married after 7 years of dating, having understood not only each other but also our parents and family environments well. After getting married, I became a housewife, while Tom, who has been working since he graduated from college, has been promoted and is currently a department head. It took some time before our daughter was born, but he showers her with love, and I thought we were one big happy family. One day, as Tom's birthday was approaching, our daughter, who has started attending kindergarten and had become interested in people's birthdays because of the monthly birthday parties, brought up the topic. Mom, it's Dad's birthday on Sunday, isn't it? Yes, it is. Did you know, Catherine? Yeah, I asked Dad. I also know about your birthday, Mom. Oh, really? Aren't we going to have a birthday party for Dad? Since our daughter was born, we haven't celebrated my husband and I's birthdays on a large scale. At most, we would say happy birthday, convey our gratitude for the year, and make his or my favorite dish for dinner. Especially since Tom's birthday is close to our daughter's, we stopped preparing a cake, thinking it would be fine to celebrate together. Being suggested by our daughter, I thought it would be nice to properly celebrate his birthday after a long time. Excitedly, I smiled at our daughter, who was waiting for my reply. Well, then shall we have a birthday party for Dad? Yes. I think Dad will be happy. Luckily, his birthday is on a Sunday this year. I thought of inviting our in-laws, who live nearby, to celebrate his birthday. Having thought so, I contacted my in-laws and told them about the birthday party. Then let's celebrate with a surprise without telling him. My mother-in-law was enthusiastic and willing to cooperate. Discussing with my in-laws and daughter about what kind of birthday party to have, I prepared for my husband's birthday. And then came Sunday. All that was left was to decorate the living room and pick up the reserved cake, and the preparations for the birthday party would be complete. However, if my husband was home while decorating, it wouldn't be a surprise. I hadn't thought about that, and was wondering what to do when my husband approached me, holding our daughter's hand. The weather is nice, so I'm thinking of going out with Catherine for a bit. Really? Is that okay? You seemed busy until yesterday, and since you don't have a part-time job today, you should relax. We'll eat lunch out too. I thought my daughter might have spilled the beans about the birthday party, but it didn't seem to be the case. Gratefully realizing how much she cared for me, I thought I could now prepare for the birthday party. Right. Please take care of Catherine. All right, I'm heading out. Mama, I'm leaving. After seeing them off, I quickly decorated the room and decided to head to the cake shop. I had reserved a birthday cake from a memorable store my husband and I visited during our dates. Even my husband, who isn't fond of sweet things, would surely love the cake from here. A sweet fragrance wafted from inside the shop. Waiting at the end of the line, I idly looked around. The cakes displayed in the showcase were vibrant, and just watching them seemed enjoyable, but many people seemed unable to make a choice and kept staring. I sighed, thinking it would take a while before my turn came. As I checked my phone, I noticed a message from my mother-in-law. Just when I was about to open it, "With so many cakes, it's hard to choose." "Just choose what you want, Karen." Recognizing the familiar voices, I looked in their direction. There he was, Tom, my husband. He was standing in front of the showcase, shoulder to shoulder with an unfamiliar woman. There was no sign of our daughter, who should have been with him. I couldn't spot her in the Eden area either. Where could she be? Just as I was about to leave the queue to look for her, I overheard their conversation again. "What do you recommend, Tom?" I'm not too sure." Seeing him so relaxed with another woman made me wonder if my daughter was safe. Just as I decided to confront him, my phone rang. It was a call from my mother-in-law. "Hello?" "Abby, I heard you weren't feeling well. Are you okay?" "Feeling unwell? Me?" "Tom just dropped off Catherine. He seemed in such a rush when he left, so I thought maybe you were seriously ill." "So, Catherine is with you?" I briefly explained the situation to my mother-in-law and hung up. Knowing my daughter's whereabouts, I could now focus on the couple in front of me. They continued their lovey-dovey conversation in front of the showcase. "In that case, I want to try different ones. Is that okay?" "If my lovely Karen wishes for it, I might try a sweet cake today." I recalled. He never said such things like that to me when he came here with me. I watched them intently and decided to call him. When he noticed the call, he began to frown. "Sorry, it's my wife." "Oh, our birthday date." "She just can't read the room. I'm really sorry." Seeing his reluctant attitude, I realized he no longer had feelings for me. As I walked towards them while calling, I overheard their conversation. "What's up?" "Hello? Where are you now?" "Didn't I say I was taking Catherine for a walk?" "Oh, so you're with Catherine?" "Obviously. What do you want?" "No particular reason. All the cakes here are delicious, but if you prefer something less sweet, the fig cake is recommended. Just thought I'd tell you." "Huh? What's with the sudden info?" "My top recommendation would be the cheesecake, but maybe no one wanted to hear the recommendation from a girl who can't read the room." Not only from the phone, but my voice directly reached my husband from behind, causing him to drop his smartphone in surprise. Seeing the cracked screen, I let out a sigh. "Why are you here?" That should be my line. "And who might this lady be? Care to introduce her?" "This girl is." Seeing my husband and the woman both in a flustered state, I on the other hand became calm. This girl is a subordinate of... So you brought your subordinate here to enjoy cake together, lying about walking with our daughter who you left with your mother? Well, she wanted some advice, so I couldn't bring Catherine along. Really? You said it was a birthday date just a moment ago. Well, I heard it was the manager's birthday today, so it was more of a joke. This whole situation seems like a joke to me, you know. I called my mother-in-law while glaring at the silent two, and then I left them to my father-in-law, who promptly rushed over to the cake shop, and I went back to waiting in line. I didn't care anymore about a cheater's birthday party, but I couldn't cancel the cake I'd ordered, so I decided to go straight home after receiving the cake. When I entered the living room, my husband and the woman were sitting formally, their faces pale, surrounded by festive decorations. My daughter had been taken for a walk by my mother-in-law. I felt guilty for having troubled my in-laws so much. This isn't the place for this kind of conversation, but you are Karen, right? Is he really your manager? Yes. But it's not just a manager-subordinate relationship, right? Whoa. I've been watching at the cake shop, so I can understand, you know. So what do you two want to do? At my words, Karen looked up. Please, divorce him. Excuse me? You asked us what we wanted to do, right? I want to marry Tom. I am prepared to become Catherine's mother. At Karen's words, my father-in-law and I sighed simultaneously. What are you talking about? You shouldn't be the one to ask for a divorce. You think I would leave my beloved daughter to someone I don't know? But you're neglecting Tom and your daughter to go out and have fun, right? You just don't want a divorce because you're after Tom's money, even though there's no love left, right? Did my husband tell you that? Yes, that's why he said he wants to marry me. You've been in a relationship long enough to consider being married to him. It's been about half a year since we started dating, but if we love each other, we should get married. With that love, you think you can become the mother of a child born from another woman? It's Tom's child, so I think I can love her. I sighed again at Karen, who could only think about things that easily. Beside Karen, who was looking at me straightforwardly, I could see my husband getting irritated. Shut up. Be quiet for a moment. Why? Maybe now she'll agree to the divorce. I said keep quiet. My husband shouted at Karen, and then glared at me. What? I should be the one making that face. Who's the one neglecting their family to fool around with another woman? Only staying in this marriage for the money when there's no love? Who are we talking about here? I might have exaggerated a bit, but you're just working part-time. You must be relying on my income, aren't you? That's true. Currently my income can't match yours. But that doesn't mean you get to say that I am failing as a wife and a mother, does it? That's right. Emily has been trying to build a good relationship with us since she started dating you 15 years ago. Today she even suggested celebrating your birthday together. What? My birthday? You've never done such a thing since Catherine was born. True. This birthday party is the first in 4 years, but every year I have conveyed my congratulations and my gratitude to you on your birthday. However, it seems it never really got through. Anyone can say those words. If you had cared more about me, I wouldn't have had an affair. Excuse me? So properly celebrating your birthday every year would be enough to show I care for you? Of course. It's a special day. So your birthday is the day you get to be the star? I'm sorry, I just can't understand that. What did he say? To begin with, you never even said the words that anyone could say on my birthday. Well, I never cared for birthday celebrations since I was a child and never wanted anything special, so it doesn't matter. Then why did you decide to have a birthday party this year? It was Catherine who suggested this idea. She must have been so happy and excited about your birthday party, and yet you used it as an alibi for your affair? If you had told me that from the beginning. If I had talked about the party, you wouldn't have gone on a date with her today? You intended to continue betraying your family as before? Betrayal? Don't make it sound that bad. Then what should I say? It's a fact, and you are still deceiving Catherine, isn't it? That's true, but I planned to explain all about this when the time is right. What are you going to explain? That you fell in love with someone and divorced me? Or will you say that I abandoned housework and parenting, and that's why we separated? I wish you would stop underestimating me. I was planning to decide based on Catherine's reaction when we divorce. So you've already decided to get a divorce. Fine, let's divorce then. Maybe I do have some responsibility for this, but you and your lover will have to take responsibility for destroying our daughter's happiness and depriving her of her father. That's right, Tom. It's something you brought upon yourself with your childish thinking and selfish behavior. You must atone for this for the rest of your life. Tom continued to shed tears, facing downwards, and muttered a small, "I'm sorry," after hearing the gentle words of his own father. It was late already, but it finally felt like my feelings and thoughts got through to my husband. Days passed and I received $30,000 as compensation and $60,000 for child support from my ex-husband, and $25,000 as compensation from Karen, concluding our divorce. Despite being the head of department, my ex-husband not only faced demotion due to the internal affair leading to divorce, but was also removed from his position at the head office. Even such a well-regarded person can lose people's trust in an instant. While he's not being treated coldly, people at work would gossip about him. He must be feeling uncomfortable. Karen left the company and returned to her parents' home as it became difficult for her to stay there any longer. My in-laws decided to distance themselves from their son. Even though our legal ties are severed, we intend to visit them occasionally to let them see Catherine, appreciating their kindness to us. Catherine and I temporarily moved back to my parents' home and are searching for a new house. I have decided to take an exam for a full-time position as it was suggested at my work. I think it will make our lives a bit easier. For the sake of my parents who are worried about us, and for the happiness of me and my daughter, I will keep doing my best. I'll divorce a slave who doesn't do housework, okay? LOL. Suddenly, my husband Tom entered the room, and as he said this, he looked down at me from above, where I was sitting in a chair, with a thin smile on his face. I'm keeping you around even though you're useless as it is. Get the meal ready now. Tom becomes furious. Unbelievably, he kicked the belly of me, who had entered the 9th month of pregnancy. No, please don't. I, who was not braced for the sudden event, fell to the floor along with the tablet I was holding. The moment I thought I'm falling, I was able to shield my belly. The impact of the fall transmits pain throughout my body. After the initial scream, while I, who can't even voice out due to pain, desperately clutch my stomach, a shout of anger flies from somewhere to my husband, who keeps kicking me and says, "Hurry up, what awaits such a husband after this size?" My name is Emily, and I'm 29 years old, living with my husband Tom, who is 3 years older than me. Even so, we'll soon become a family of 3. In fact, I am blessed with a new life. In the 9th month of pregnancy, I, who knows nothing about having a baby for the first time, somehow managed to reach a stable period while staring at a maternity magazine. That doesn't mean I can relax, and I spend every day exploring various things that I shouldn't do and should do during this time. I had only seen morning sickness on TV dramas, but when I actually experienced it, I realized how hard it can be. I realized how difficult childbirth is, and at the same time, I realized how great mothers are. I was looking forward to the day when the baby would be born safely. However, one worry has arisen. It's about my husband, Tom. When I told him about my pregnancy, he celebrated with a triumphant pose, exclaiming, "Yes!" I imagined a bright future filled with non-stop smiles between Tom, our soon-to-be-born baby, and me, believing we could build a happy family together. However, as I grappled with the uncertainties of my first pregnancy, struggled with physical challenges, and was bedridden due to morning sickness, Tom, who had always been kind, began to change. "I'm home. Why are the lights off?" "Sorry. I've been feeling faint since this morning." "So, you didn't do anything again?" "Yes. That's why I tried to call you to either eat out or bring something home. I was on the move. How could I take your call? What about my dinner?" As he said this, he raised his voice and started lashing out at things around him. I wanted to tell him, "There's some pre-made hamburger and dumplings in the freezer," but if I did, would he, tired from his day, interpret it as me asking him to cook for himself? He'd probably scream at me. Tom's attitude suggested he didn't care about my health, especially when he was hungry. He clicked his tongue in annoyance, left the house without a word, and when he came back, he only brought food for himself. He flaunted his meal, didn't clean up, drank heavily, and went to sleep. After seeing Tom off to the bedroom, I managed to get up and tried to eat whatever I could for the sake of our unborn baby. Sitting in the quiet living room, I felt a deep sadness, and tears began to flow. I couldn't grasp how the happy family life I had dreamt of just days ago was now on the brink of collapse. Tom and I were what people call office romance couples. We both worked at a major global company called Brown Company. Tom was in a marketing department. While I served as an executive assistant, I also handled accounting tasks. It was during one of these accounting tasks that Tom came to me with documents from his department. And that's when he took a particular interest in me. From that day on, he came to make him move on me. It was, in essence, love at first sight for Tom. At first, I wasn't interested, but his straightforward and earnest approach, combined with his visible strength in leading his subordinates, drew me to him. That's how our relationship started. He had been such a wonderful person, making me dream of a happy family since we started dating. If I stop being lazy and properly take care of the household and Tom, will he be kind to me again? Deciding so, I adjusted my waking time to be earlier to accommodate my sluggishness and ensured to move with plenty of leeway. Although I've been allowed to work from home, I have to work. Come on, I can do this. I actually don't take maternity leave and am given a work from home job. Some of the secretarial tasks, such as schedule management and contacting managers, could be done remotely from home, and above all, I wanted to save as much as possible for our upcoming child. Thus, while mastering my spirits and making adjustments, I somehow secured a living rhythm. I woke up earlier than Tom in the morning and prepared breakfast properly. I didn't prepare lunch since I usually use the company cafeteria. After sending Tom off, I was able to move at my own pace until he returned at night, resting my body while handling work and household chores. That was my daily routine. However, Tom did not change his attitude towards me, and on the contrary, became colder day by day. On the weekend, I was feeling unwell from the morning, and despite the alarm clock ringing, I couldn't get my body up and unintentionally overslept until Tom's waking time. "Hey, wake up! Didn't I tell you I'm going out because I have a golf outing for entertaining clients today. You want me to go out without eating? That's right. I had been told about it in advance. Sorry, it's just really tough. With only those words coming out, he furiously kicked the bed and yelled at me, calling me useless. While shriveling up from his loud voice and impact, I uttered an unnecessary word. You always do everything right. It just so happens that today. What are you getting defiant for? It's normal for a housewife to do it properly every day. He further raised his voice, beginning to take his anger out on objects nearby. The sound of objects colliding and breaking resonated throughout the room. I'm sorry. Please stop. Frightened, I apologized while covering my ears. From that point on, our conversations dwindled. I kept my distance when Tom seemed in a bad mood, and apologized when he said something. Of course, I hadn't done anything wrong. Can I give birth while feeling this insecure? I considered going back to my parents' house for the birth, but seeing our baby might bring back the old Tom. He might be happy, like when I told him the pregnancy. I decided to gamble on that faint hope. After Tom had left and some time had passed, I staggered to get up, beginning to clean up the items he had angrily thrown onto the floor. Among them was a picture frame, which held a photo of us snuggling together from when we were dating, now mercilessly shattered. Its glass surface broken. It seemed to tell me that there was no turning back, and tears streamed down my face. Then the doorbell rang. It was just past 10:30 when I checked the clock. Who could it be? Tom doesn't ring the doorbell. I wiped my tears and welcomed the unexpected visitor. Hi, who is it? Through the door, a friendly and gentle voice answered. Emily, it's Catherine. I hurriedly opened the door to the unexpected visitor. Catherine. I must have had a terrible look on my face. Catherine extended her plump hand and, seeing my face, said, "Oh dear, what happened? What's wrong? You look pale." Catherine. Again, tears soaked my cheeks at her kindness. Catherine is the wife of the president of Brown Company, where Tom and I work. From my grandfather, we've gotten to know her, and Catherine, who doesn't have children, dotes on me as if I were her own daughter. Before my pregnancy, I used to visit Catherine or the president's house to learn how to cook. Apparently, Catherine used to be a teacher of cooking class in the past, and since I love cooking, she decided to teach me. This might be the first time Catherine has visited me. I explained everything to her about how Tom has changed since. Seeing the state of the room, it seemed like Catherine realized this was no ordinary situation. "And have you talked to my husband about Tom?" "No. This is a problem between the two of us. And I think it's my fault for not behaving the way Tom wants me to. And I've never had a child, so I can't speak arrogantly. But I do know that it's cruel to treat you, Emily, who has been blessed with a precious life, that way." Saying that, she got angry on my behalf. And if he behaves like that at home, I don't know what he's like at the company. She speculated that Tom's behavior was not triggered by the pregnancy, but that there might have been difficulties with his personality to begin with. She mentioned it might be a classic case of not feeding the fish you've caught. After listening to my whole story, Catherine tidied up the scattered items and made me rice porridge with egg. Originally, she came to get me nutritious, researching and making me side dishes and fruits that are gentle for pregnant women. Contact me immediately if anything happens, no matter what time it is. I'll rush over for you, Emily. Thank you, Catherine. Catherine waved her hand, looking back many times as she left. Talking to Catherine relieved my mental anxiety, and with the food she brought, I gradually regained my strength. One day off like that. Last night, Tom, who had been out drinking somewhere, did not wake up even at his usual time. And I prepared meals during that time and decided to work remotely since I had received a call from the company. How much time had passed? The room door opened vigorously without a knock while I was having a casual conversation with someone whom I had seen in the company for the first time in a while after finishing an important meeting. I was surprised and looked towards the door to see Tom glaring at me, his eyes narrowed. "I'm trying to sleep here because I'm tired. And who were you talking to? You seem to be having a good time laughing, huh? Cheating on me? What a life you have." Saying so, he aggressively approaches me. "I'm divorcing a useless slave who doesn't do household chores, okay? LOL. And saying that, he looked down on me, who was sitting and smoking, from above. It seems he misunderstood that I was cheating while talking to someone on the phone. I was just working, okay? You're so shameless. Damn it. I'm keeping you around even though you're useless. Go prepare your master's meal at once." Tom, furious with anger, does something unthinkable. He kicks the leg of the chair I was sitting in with all his might. Unprepared for the sudden incident, I, along with the tablet I was holding, fell from the chair to the floor. "I'm falling," I thought for a moment, but at least I could shield my stomach. However, the impact of the fall transmits pain throughout my body. After my initial scream, I hold my stomach desperately, unable to make a sound due to the pain. "Don't mess with me." Tom kicks my stomach, now 9 months pregnant, over and over again. Shielding my stomach, I eke out a voiceless plea, "Stop." Then, from somewhere, a furious voice flies towards my husband Tom. "You bastard. What are you doing to Emily?" The voice came from the tablet that had fallen with me. The fallen tablet happened to lean against the leg of the desk, showing my being kicked to the person connected remotely. "What the?" The voice sounds loud for a phone call. Tom, thinking that what I dropped was a phone, squatted down to peek towards the voice and was startled. It was because there were eyes, looking like a demon, glaring at him. There, with pain becoming unbearable, I summoned my voice. "Please, call an ambulance," amidst a pain like I'd never felt before. A pain so severe it felt like I might pass out if I let my guard down. I managed to let out a sound. "Humph. After that monkey show, now you're playing sick. LOL. Tom snickers through his nose, dismissing my plea. But then a scolding comes from the tablet once again. "You idiot. Do you think those anguished cries are fake? Call an ambulance immediately. Shut up. Who are you, old man?" Tom cussed the other person on the screen as he said so, but his face paled when he saw another person on the screen. "I'll call the ambulance." What, President?" Displayed on the screen with a familiar face of the president and an elderly man unknown to Tom. "Johnson, I heard everything you did. How foolish. Are you even human?" "No, that's right. It's just physical affection." "Sorry, President, haha." Tom, making an utterly unsightly excuse, is yelled at again by the elderly man. "You devil. Where does kicking a pregnant woman in the stomach repeatedly count as physical affection? Moreover, she is my precious granddaughter. Ha. Who the hell are you anyway?" The one to stop Tom, who was raising his voice, was President White. "Johnson, don't tell me you are unaware of the face of our company's chairman, Mr. John Brown, or you don't know that Emily is the chairman's granddaughter." Tom couldn't believe his ears, and with good reason. He did not know that I am the granddaughter of John Brown, the chairman of Brown Company. My father, chasing his dreams since his student days, did not take over Brown Company, which was run by his father, that is, my grandfather. And after my grandfather John became chairman, he hardly showed his face at the company. So he was a somewhat hidden kind of presence. Even though my maiden name is Emily Brown, it probably went unnoticed. However, I had no intention of keeping it a secret indefinitely, and I had told Tom that I wanted him to meet my grandfather. And Tom had agreed, saying he had to go and greet him, and I was planning to introduce him as a surprise when they met. Neither Tom or I could have dreamed that they would meet under circumstances where he was seen being violent to me. Tom Payole was standing stunned as President White delivered the coup de grace. "I must consider your punishment." "Wait, please, President. I really meant it as physical affection. Just by chance." Just as he began to speak, the ambulance President White had arranged arrived. Almost simultaneously, Catherine, perhaps alerted by President White, also rushed to the scene. "Step back. If something happens to Emily and the baby." "No. Even if nothing happens, I will not forgive you." Saying this, she glared suspiciously at Tom. Then, telling her husband, President White, and grandfather on the tablet, "I will accompany her," she tightly gripped my hand, showing a worried expression, and rode with me in the ambulance. Consciousness, barely maintained, began to fade upon being loaded into the ambulance. Catherine's voice called to me, "Emily, Emily," shrinks away, independent of my darkening vision. How long have I been asleep? I open my eyes, feeling blinded by light. Where am I? Slowly speaking, she looks around slowly. Then, "Emily." "Oh, thank goodness. I'm so sorry." Emily has woken up. The first thing that comes into view is Catherine, calling out while pressing the nurse call button. From the opposite side of Catherine, I hear my grandfather John's voice. "Emily. Oh, it's so good. The baby in your belly seems to be safe, too." "Grandpa." "Catherine." My foggy head slowly begins to work. At the same time, I remember being pregnant and the terrible violence from my husband, Tom. "The baby, good." She feels relief at her grandfather's words and covers her face. Upon seeing this, her grandfather gently pats her head, saying, "You must have been scared. You did so well," overlapping with the early days of marriage with Tom. I say something I've been feeling to the two of them. Did I do something wrong? The voice that escapes my lips trembles. Hearing my words, Catherine, teary-eyed, says, "Emily, it's not your fault." And grandfather says, "I will never forgive the guy who put our precious Emily through this." Both defend me. At their words, "Don't think about anything and sleep now," I feel genuinely relieved that I don't have to tough it out alone. Later, when I awoke, I was informed that I had slept for 3 full days and nights. After receiving a diagnosis that both me and baby were without issue, I was hospitalized for a week to be safe, but during that time, Tom never visited, considering the baby that could have been in danger. Even I began to feel a surge of anger towards Tom. During the hospitalization, Catherine, who had been visiting me every day, decided that returning home like this could result in Tom doing something unpredictable. Thanks to Catherine's generosity, until things were settled with Tom, I would be taken care of at her boss White's home. My parental home is far away, and considering the unstable situation that had continued, it was decided that returning there for the birth was not a good idea, though I thought of going to grandfather's place. Since my grandmother had passed away and only men were there, it was decided to go to Boss White's place where there's Catherine. Besides, it was concluded that White's residence, which is closer to the city center, would be convenient even to discipline Tom, and that's how the plan was formed. Soon after starting to stay with Catherine, President White shared with me how Tom behaves at the company. Apparently, on the night I had told Catherine everything, she had asked the president to keep an eye on Tom's conduct. In response, the president had taken steps to have Tom's immediate superiors and colleagues report on his usual behavior. So, it seems like Emily didn't have to worry about anything. Catherine and I were speechless after hearing the president's story. Catherine's reaction was, "I knew it." It seems that Tom, who had not contacted me at all since I was taken away in an ambulance, thought that I had realized I had done something bad to him and ran away. And unbelievably, he had been spreading lies to his colleagues that I had cheated on him and, feeling guilty, distanced myself from him. According to one of Tom's peers, he always had a high pride and belittled those he deemed beneath him, and was absolutely horrific to his subordinates, ordering them around and insulting them. He said that he only approached me because I was the most popular female employee in the company at the time, and that if he could get me married, he would use me as a slave. I had been deceived by Tom. When I thought about it, I felt truly pathetic for having been so happy to have met someone kind. It's not just a case of not feeding a fish you've caught, is it? Catherine spoke with an extremely displeased expression. He's that kind of person, so I wonder if he's done something outside of the company too. That might be the case. We should investigate. Catherine, exchanging glances with President White, nodded and, after patting me on the shoulder and saying, "Wait here," headed towards the back of the room. When she returned in less than 5 minutes, she handed me a business card. "What's this?" "He's willing to listen carefully to your story, so why don't you consult him?" Dropping my eyes to the business card Catherine gave me, I recognized it as a lawyer's card. Upon asking, it turned out my grandfather gave it to Catherine to give to me, saying he's a skilled lawyer. Right now, my grandfather was dealing with the arrival of an old overseas trading partner coming to the States, and he had entrusted me to Catherine. The chairman was very worried. He said he couldn't be here for you during this time, but to stay strong and do your best, and he wanted that message conveyed. Is that so? That's so like Grandpa. I muttered in my heart. My grandfather prioritized work and business associates over family matters and was very strict, having been Grandpa's girl and watching him since I was little. I've always loved him, despite occasionally perceiving him as cold during my student days due to his stern work demeanor. With it your best, cheer from such a grandfather. I determined in my heart to settle things with Tom and firmly decide where to stand from now on. And when I had the lawyer investigate various matters, one thing after another came out. I found out Tom was an atrocious person. First of all, it turned out that Tom, who made me out to be the worst wife ever, who'd cheated on him and left him, had relationships with several women outside the company, including the receptionist girl at the office. When President White conducted an internal investigation, suspicions also arose that he was embezzling company money, attempting to pin the crime on me, who was also in charge of accounting. Around the time the investigation was progressing to a certain extent, my smartphone rang. Of course, it was from Tom. "Hey, what the hell is going on?" Tom's angry voice, which I hadn't heard for so long, didn't scare me at all now. I answer calmly and coldly. "Is it correct to assume that you've received the registered mail we sent? Why are you talking so formally?" "Oh, haven't you read it?" I cannot forgive your vile acts towards our unborn baby. I sincerely wish to become a stranger to you and send it in order to sever our ties, didn't I? You're the one who cheated and left without a word, aren't you? Tom's shouting is painful to the ears. Can you only shout? I can hear you perfectly fine without you raising your voice. Are you satisfied now, accusing me while you enjoy affairs with multiple people? With sarcasm, I folded on him that I knew it all. Wait, how do you? I continued without hesitation at the flustered Tom. You really haven't read it, have you? I had a lawyer investigate everything. There's more than enough evidence. And also, I added that while the mail from me is a personal claim for consolation money, his company's lawyer would likely contact him about his misconduct at work, and he should be prepared for that. Judging by his reaction, Tom must be sweating bullets and pale as a sheet. He frantically begins to read through the mail I sent, the rustling of paper audible. He probably felt credibility in the story since I knew about the company affairs and about being contacted by a company lawyer. He tries to turn the tables. Wait, Emily, you don't want to break up with me now, do you? The baby needs a father, don't they? Don't even think about doing something as stupid as breaking up. Also, the company thing is something you did. I'll say it was a mistake. That makes everything okay, doesn't it? Such a self-serving, convenient argument. An outrageous claim. What did I do? Didn't I tell you? There's more than enough evidence. Oh, right? My grandfather was quite angry as well, so you might be sued by him too. I have nothing more to talk to you about. If there's anything you need to say to me in the future, please go through my lawyer, okay? Saying so, I hung up the phone. Wait, don't hang up. I could hear his pathetic voice, but I didn't care. I never wanted to hear Tom's voice again, and even more so, I never wanted to see his face. With my important childbirth ahead, I decided to leave everything to the lawyer and prepare. In the end, here's what happened to Tom. After an investigation by the company, he was reported for his crude behavior towards colleagues, proven to have embezzled, was disciplinary dismissed, and sued for embezzlement, eventually being taken into custody by the police. Furthermore, although I didn't want to make a big deal about it for the sake of the baby being born, my grandfather was furious, and Tom was reported to the police for assault against me, his granddaughter, and was investigated for assault. Financially, he was slapped with various consolation payments and additional damage claims, ending up being billed an astonishing amount all at once. Tom would be on the other side of the fence for the time being, but after getting out, after that would surely be even more difficult. He asked for it. He needs to pay for what he has done. As for me, the divorce was finalized before Tom got involved with the police, and later, I safely gave birth to a healthy baby girl. After consulting with my grandfather and Catherine, and involving the lawyer, we decided to tell the baby that her father had passed away. My parents were shocked by the post-factum report, but they moved to Tokyo due to my childbirth, and we, my parents, my daughter, and I, began living together as a family of 4. My parents helped with child rearing, allowing me to formally return to work. When my daughter started elementary school, I was entrusted with a big responsibility at the company, succeeding Mr. White as president, believe it or not. In Brown Company, under my grandfather's policy of not allowing the company's atmosphere to stagnate, presidents change upon reaching a certain age, and I had been studying the company's know-how while working as a secretary and in accounting. Being the next presidential candidate, if Tom had maintained his character from when we met, Perhaps he might have become the president. Now I feel nothing but pity for Tom, who has gone astray in life. Rather, to prevent producing such an employee, I have to become a leader who can properly listen to everyone's voices and tighten my own resolve. I renewed my resolve to become a great person like my grandfather. My grandfather, too, retired from the position of chairman, and now is a great-grandfather who dotes on my daughter. Despite the horrible things I experienced, I am sincerely happy now.